The material presents arms exporters and importers. We will show 3 infographics from the Visual Capitalist portal, the world's largest arms exporters for the period 2018-2022, the world's largest 25 defense companies, the world's largest arms importers for the period 2018-2022. In the first graphic we see that the United States is by far the largest arms exporter in the world. They are responsible for 40% of global exports. Then, for a long time, nothing, and there is the Russian Federation with a 16% share in world arms exports. France is third, 11%. China accounts for 5% of global exports, mainly to Africa. Germany and Italy 4% each. Great Britain and Spain 3% each. Korea and Israel 2% each. The rest of the world exports a total of 9%. Please note that the European countries shown in this graphic collectively export as many weapons as the United States. Moreover, other European countries not mentioned here, such as Sweden or the Czech Republic, are still increasing the share of European countries in the global arms market. Someone might point out that since 80% of weapons are made in the USA and Europe, 80% of the victims of armed conflicts will be harmed by American or European weapons. Such a statement would be a gross simplification. Not all exports are directed to areas of armed conflict. Moreover, advanced and expensive military technology allows for precise actions to avoid accidental civilian casualties. Nevertheless, it is difficult not to get the impression that the countries associated with NATO are clearly ahead of the rest of the world in the production of weapons. The old saying goes that to keep peace, you must prepare for war. In the bottom bar of the infographic we see which exporters increased and which decreased the volume of arms exports. The largest increase between the years 2013-17 and 2018-22 is recorded in South Korea, 74%. Then Italy and France with 45% each. USA 14%. Next we see declines, Spain -4%, Israel -15%, China -23%, Russia -31%, Germany and Great Britain -35%. This infographic shows the largest producers, but at the company level, not the country level. Although you can also read information about the country of residence of a given company here. American companies are marked in green, Chinese in orange, French in dark blue, British in light blue, Italian in yellow, German in dark red, and Israeli in blue. Of the 25 largest entities, almost half, 12, are American companies. For Chinese companies, 4 French companies, 2 British companies and 1 German and Israeli company. This infographic also gives us information about the revenue figure, probably as of 2023. We see that the largest company, Lockheed Martin, obtained over $63 billion. Next to this we can see, in the bottom bar under each semicircle, what percentage of the company's revenue came from the sale of weapons. In the case of Lockheed Martin it is 96%. Among the 16 companies presented, arms sales accounted for over 50% of revenues. Please note that the presented Chinese companies generate between 21 and 37% of their revenues from weapons, so it is not their main activity. The same cannot be said about most European and American entities, which have a narrower specialization and focus on weapons. The exceptions are General Electric, Honeywell, Airbus and Rolls-Royce, which earn mainly in civilian areas. In the case of Boeing, it's 50-50. Some of the presented companies are listed on stock exchanges and you can become their shareholder. Public prospectuses also enable open access to published financial data. We already know who produces the most weapons. Now let's meet the buyers. The structure of the largest arms importers is more diverse. The infographic shows 15 countries with the largest imports. Together, they are responsible for purchasing 64% of the weapons. India dominates. 11%. The main direction of supplies is Russia, although with such a volume there is certainly room for other exporters there as well. In second place is Saudi Arabia, responsible for the purchase of every 10th unit of weapons in the world. They export mainly from the USA. You probably know that it is the second largest oil producer in the world after the United States, with a population of 32 million. Other oil producers Qatar, the United Arab Emirates and Kuwait were also among the largest importers, with shares of 6, 3, and 2%, respectively. In their case, American weapons also dominate. Tiny Qatar imports even more than China, whose share reaches 5%, and the main supplier is Russia. Pakistan is an important partner of China in terms of arms imports, with 4% of global exports going there. Korea and Japan import the same amount, mainly from the USA. Together, the largest Asian importers mentioned above constitute half of the global arms market. Australia and Egypt import 5% each. Australia mainly from the USA, Egypt mainly from Russia. The world's largest weapons producer also sometimes buys them from outside, participating in 3% of imports, mainly of British weapons. The largest European importers are Ukraine, Great Britain and Norway. Please note that among the 15 largest arms importers in the world there is none from the European Union. EU countries are in the rest of the world category when it comes to imports. But in the first graphic you saw European exporters. Just a little statistical observation. Of the countries included in both infographics, the largest arms exporters and importers, Korea accounts for 2% of exports and 4% of imports. China balances imports and exports at 5%. The UK exports 3%, imports 2%, the US exports 40%, imports 3%. The remaining largest exporters import less than 1% of world production. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss other interesting infographics.